Welcome back to The Explainer. So, today we're going to dive into a legal rule that, well, it kind of feels like it breaks all the other rules. We're talking about something that could land you in prison based on words someone else said. It's called the co-conspirator exception, and trust me, it's a huge deal in some of the biggest criminal cases you've ever heard of. Yeah, let's just get right to the heart of it. Can another person's words you didn't even hear, spoken when you weren't even in the room, actually be used to send you to prison? I mean, it sounds completely nuts, right? But the answer, believe it or not, is sometimes. And how that's even possible is exactly what we're going to unpack today. Okay, so before we can really get the exception, we got to understand the main rule it's breaking. And that rule is the one against hearsay. Now, you can basically think of hearsay as courtroom gossip, right? So if a witness gets up there and says, well, my friend Bob told me the getaway car was blue, a judge is almost always going to shut that down. And why? Well, you can't put Bob's statement on trial. You can't cross-examine him. You can't test his memory or figure out if he's lying. It's not considered reliable evidence. But you know how it is with legal rules. There are always exceptions. And this one, it's a huge one. It's what we call the co-conspirator exception. And it kicks in whenever people are accused of working together on some kind of criminal plan. So here's the crazy thing. The law looks at a conspiracy a lot like a business partnership. I mean, they're literally partners in crime. It's all based on this legal concept called agency. Think about it this way. One business partner can sign a contract that makes the whole company responsible, right? While in a conspiracy, one person's words can legally lock in everyone else involved in the plan. And this is where you really see just how powerful this exception is. If some random person on the street makes a statement about you being involved in a crime, that's classic hearsay. The judge will toss it out. But a statement from someone the court thinks is your co-conspirator? Whoa, suddenly that's fair game. It's considered admissible, powerful evidence against you and everybody else in on the plan. The difference is just it's night and day. Now hold on, it's not a total free-for-all. Prosecutors can't just use any old conversation between criminals. For a statement to get in, it has to check 3 really specific boxes. First, it has to be from an actual co-conspirator. Second, it's got to be made while the conspiracy is still going on. And third, and this is the big one, it has to have been said to actually help the plan move forward. So it really all boils down to the purpose of the statement. Let's say one criminal's just bragging to another about a score from last week. That's probably not getting in. It's just, telling a story. But what if they say something like, I got the blueprints. Let's meet tomorrow to figure out how we're getting in. See the difference? That statement is actively pushing the plan forward. That's what in furtherance means, and that's the kind of thing a jury gets to hear. Okay, so this is where things get, well, a little weird. This rule creates this bizarre logical loop that courts have been scratching their heads over for a very long time. They call it the bootstraps problem. There's this great old legal quote that nails the problem perfectly. It says, the hearsay is trying to lift itself by its own bootstraps to the level of competent evidence. I mean, you can't physically pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, right? It's impossible. And that's the paradox here. You're trying to use the statement itself to prove that the statement should be allowed in court. It's circular. Let me break down this catch-22 for you. So, step 1. To use what person A said against person B, the prosecutor has to prove they were in a conspiracy together. Simple enough. But step 2, what if the main evidence, maybe the only evidence you have of that conspiracy, is the statement from person A? See the problem? You're completely stuck. How can you use the statement to prove the conspiracy before you've proven the conspiracy even exists? So, how in the world does the justice system get out of this logical mess? Well, the courts came up with a pretty clever, almost elegant solution. It all comes down to breaking the loop by separating who gets to decide what. Here's the fix. The judge gets a really important, specific job. They become the gatekeeper. So before a jury hears a single word of this controversial statement, the judge holds their own little hearing. And their only job is to make a preliminary decision. Is there enough other evidence here to even let this statement through the gates and into the trial? And this division of labor is absolutely critical. The judge and the jury are asking 2 totally different questions, and they're using 2 totally different standards to answer them. The judge is just asking, is there at least some reasonable evidence that a conspiracy existed? It's a pretty low bar, really, just enough to open the courtroom doors for that statement. But the jury, they have a much bigger job. They have to decide guilt, and for that, they need proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which, as you know, is the highest standard we have. So, what exactly counts as reasonable evidence for the judge? Well, it means the prosecutors have to put something on the table that connects the accused to the conspiracy, and it has to be separate from the statement they're trying to get in. We're talking phone records, maybe some money transfers, testimony from another witness, anything like that. It doesn't have to prove guilt by itself, not at all. It just has to be enough to create a reasonable link. And this part is really important. Once the judge makes that call, it's done. The jury doesn't get asked to second-guess the judge or worry about the complicated legal rules of admissibility. No, their job is much more straightforward. Just look at all the evidence that was allowed in and decide what happened. This whole system is designed to avoid confusion and keep the jury focused on the ultimate question, right? All right, so after all that complexity and these weird logical loops, why even have this rule? What's the point? What's the impact in the real world? So let's get to the takeaways here. This exception is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful weapons a prosecutor has. It's especially useful for dismantling big, complex criminal operations like organized crime, where the people at the top try to insulate themselves and never say a word. But, and this is a big but, that power is balanced by that super important safeguard we talked about, the judge acting as the gatekeeper. The judge has the final call and can always exclude the evidence if they think it will be fundamentally unfair to the person on trial. So in the end, you can see the co-conspirator exception really lives on a knife's edge. On one hand, it's a recognition that criminal conspiracies are uniquely dangerous and hard to prove. But on the other hand, it allows one person's words they can't be cross-examined on, to potentially seal someone else's fate. And that leaves us with this huge, central question that the legal system still wrestles with every single day. Is this rule a vital tool for justice, or is it a dangerous shortcut?